Holistic woman is a woman who understands that there are different areas to life and that we are multidimensional beings. The real self-care is what you were saying, understanding the ability that without me, nothing exists.
What is the rejections that you meet, or what is the patterns that you see that people can't get over to get to that state?
They actually were from the line of the present moment rather than dwelling too much in the past. Like, how do we move forward from here?
The world is so abundant and there are so many things to spend money on, and it's
When we do the work,
amazing.
we find where the blocks really are.
Do you think women can actually earn money and stay in their feminine without getting into this masculine goals, facts, strong opinion, things like that?
We need to understand is two things. Number one, we're not responsible for other people's emotions.
True.
And at the same time, we have to protect ourselves. And when we notice something, unfortunately, sometimes we do have to cut it off.
Welcome to Xenia Talks, and today my beautiful guest is a visionary leader, redefining women's empowerment on a global scale. With her refound platform, Mujer Holística, she has inspired millions to live life with purpose, passion, and abundance, becoming a trusted guide in wellness, spirituality, and transformation. With over 13 years' experience as a health coach, meditation teacher, and best-selling author, her work combines practical tools and profound wisdom. With her 5 books, including I Am a Holistic Woman and I Love Money, have transformed lives worldwide, offering guidance on wellness, spiritual growth, and entrepreneurship. Originally from Costa Rica, she spent last 6 years traveling the world, uncovering an universal demand for her teachings. Her upcoming English content, launching in 2025, will expand her passion of helping women reclaiming their power, balance the money energy, and manifest a brighter future for all. Please welcome beautiful Maria Jose Flaque.
Oh, thank you, Xenia. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Maria, to say that I wanted you to be on this podcast is to say nothing because, we've been planning that for a while.
Yeah.
And to me, you are a very high vibrational person who is in the flow of traveling the world, keeping it all in abundance and translating to the world the things that you learn day by day in the most, I think, unique and loving way.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to tell you, to send my gratitude to the work that you are doing. So 13 years experience, it's a long time. And I'm sure that the whole journey from beginning till the end had transformed yourself from the Maria, which was 13 years ago, and Maria, who is now. So how was your journey and what was that turning point?
So I started Xenia Mujer Holística, and I became a health coach, and I started sharing the tools that have helped me to feel more peace, to feel more grounded, and to really calm the excessive anxiety that I felt before, out of what happened in my life, out of my personal story.
Right.
So when I was in my 20s, I grew up in a very difficult family, a lot of family issues, like many people.
True.
And when I was in my 20s, my family separated in two. So my brother, who at the time was 9 years old, and my mother became one side, and my brother and my sisters, my father and my sisters another. And I didn't see my brother again until he was 25.
Whoa.
And that was very difficult for me because my brother was everything to me. Because I was the oldest, he was like my son. He was so special to me. And it threw me into a spiral of not knowing what to do with my life, anxiety, eating disorders, depression, everything, because I felt like the floor underneath my feet had been taken away from me, my mother and my brother. And so through this story, and that's how I got into therapy, that's how I found meditation, that's how I found all the tools that helped me to find not only purpose, but really just feel better.
Right.
Like at that time, I had no idea what
like a peace of mind
spirituality was,
right.
or any, like I had inklings and I had so many guides and beautiful people like drop little nuggets of wisdom, but really all I wanted was to stop crying and feel good, right? And that began my personal journey, which began more than 25 or 30 years ago, of therapy and of really getting to know myself. And as I developed all these tools and had more concepts and understood everything better, I was like, I really want to share this.
Right.
But I felt like I just knew a lot, but I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And so I went into health coaching. And that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
And I did the integrative nutrition course. And it's the biggest health coaching school in the world. And that gave me the confidence to say like, okay, I've done something and now I can share what I know.
You shaped up basically
exactly.
that knowledge and that experience.
Exactly. And that's how Mujer Holística began.
Amazing.
Me sharing the tools that helped me to feel better. And as I have grown and evolved, which we'll talk about, the toolbox just grew.
Because there are so many angles in it, isn't it?
Because there's so many angles. Right. Because it's not a one quick fix thing.
Yeah.
It really is a journey of a lifetime.
Wow. And the turning point, basically, what I feel it was gradual. It was basically step by step when you were just realizing certain things and you realizing, because, sometimes we can get mixed up in directions. Some people going to release their stress in totally different way, and some people going for meditations so how did that path had transformed your vision and moved you to like this completely different person who you are today?
Wow, like my closest friends tell me, we don't even recognize you anymore. I am such a different human being, even from the one who started Mujer Holística. Because when I began Mujer Holística, I was still very, not confused, but naive and very overgenerous, with still a lot of trauma bonds to deal with, especially in the way I related to people. There was still a part of me that was very scared of judgment, of criticism, of speaking my voice, of telling the truth, of saying what I thought was right. Yeah. Because I had come from such a difficult childhood and teenage years, I still had a people-pleasing. I was the queen of fawning, like the teacher of the fawners, and I could not say no. And I had a really difficult time establishing boundaries. So when I began this platform, it was even harder because everything got amplified. Yes. Because I had so many people around me and so many people wanting different things from me. And my inability to say no created a lot of problems for many years. In fact, up until the last 2 or 3 years that I have really, really gotten to this place where I can be firmer in my boundaries. Right. Because this is for women in general. For women, it's really difficult to set boundaries.
I think it's the women's softer nature itself. That's what is, but as you said, everything starts from the beginning, from the family, right? And it somewhere has to be a situation which is letting you grow because, as they say, nothing happens good without something bad happens, before that. Yeah. What I wanted to hear, because I want to translate for our, English-speaking followers, is Mujer Holística is a holistic woman.
Yes.
So would you give a little description and explanation? Who is that woman? Who is the holistic woman?
So holistic woman is a woman who understands that there are different areas to life and that we are multidimensional beings. Like we have our spiritual side, we have our mental side, we have our physical body, and each of these areas need to be taken care of and properly receive the proper nutrients and love and care in order to truly feel this sense of peace and internal love.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that comes to, I think, a lot to self-care, because out of your journey, what I was, trying to learn about you within this period, even before the podcast, I could see that you have traveled past 6 years. And I can see that self-care for you is literally, if not on the first place, on the prime place for you. Yeah. Because let's take seriously the world right now. Women rarely put themselves first or self-care. Yeah. Always, every time somebody comes in front of that, somebody's, wants something, as you said. And then her, love to herself, unfortunately, is not the prime one. Yeah. Now, how do women move towards at least that direction? I'm not saying over one day women can become totally in love with themselves, because I feel it's a long process. But how they can start moving towards that side? How was it for you to just realize how important self-care and also traveling? Because traveling, I feel it's eye-opening. I feel it's transforming even more than any teaching, because you see things, and I see your stories, what you get to see. It's literally unbelievable. And I wanted to hear that from you personally, because
oh my God, we can talk for hours.
After 9 flowers to Dubai, oh my God.
I have so much to share around this. Okay, so first of all, self-care is a word that has been used a lot, like, go take a bubble bath,
right?
Or go, I don't know, to the spa for an hour, which is self-care. Yes, I agree. But I have to say, there is no real self-care without courage. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because to truly understand boundaries and self-care and taking care of our energy and energetic field and mental health and physical health requires courage. Mm-hmm. Because I always tell my community, like, if there were one virtue I want to inject into everybody, is courage. Because it is the ability to choose ourselves over and over again. Mm-hmm. And society has taught us, and I want you to think this is like a little chip that has been implanted in our brains to make us feel guilty when we choose ourselves.
Facts. To
make us feel like another person will suffer, or another person will not be happy, or I am not doing good for the world, or I am being ungenerous. We have a lot of taboos and ideas in our head about choosing ourselves. And so we believe that self-care is, I'm going to go to the park, I'm going to go take a bubble bath or go to the spa. But that is like covering it with a small Band-Aid. Mm-hmm. Because the real self-care is what you were saying, understanding the ability that without me, nothing exists. Without my mental health, my family is not okay. Without my physical health, I'm not okay to be with the world.
Absolutely. And this is the first thing people have to think about. Without the health, and I think the world had shown since 2020, like how health is important. Yeah. And definitely like the pillars of abundant life, or not even abundant life, just normal life, is the health and care.
And you have to be willing to have people dislike you. And you have to be willing to have people not like you.
That's such a package, isn't it? Such a package. Like if you do this, then you have to handle that.
I mean, it comes with the package. Exactly. You have to be willing for people to criticize you, to dislike you, to even hate you, and to feel triggered. But that is their responsibility. Because your responsibility is to put your energetic, physical, and mental health first. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And without that, really, we lead a life where our energy is like drained. It's like little holes in the field that just suck us.
And I feel it's a lot to do with sensing yourself, like being in touch with your inner self in a way, where you would feel, okay, this is comfortable, this is not comfortable. So if there is a rejection from someone, like to be able to kind of keep it outside your inner world, isn't it? Like that's how I feel it's supposed to be. But again, I think especially women, they're struggling with that because we kind of learned that rejection is something that is bad. And if you get something negative, you have to become obedient.
Yeah, but again, this goes back to courage. Number one, like how much are you willing to, do you really want this change?
Right.
And this is where we go back to the principles also of a lot of my work. Mm-hmm. This won't change until the moment when you feel that it is so painful and so limiting and so detrimental, and even physically until you get sick. Then you will change. Mm-hmm. And so we have this pattern as society where we believe we have to hit rock bottom.
We hit it till the end until it's no more manageable, no more possible.
And that's a pattern. That's a learned pattern. And so we need to really stop in our tracks and say, am I going to continue this road or will I have the courage to take another road?
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then, how do we make the world understand that? I mean, like, I know that you're teaching people and you're like a lot with students, right? You let the people understand this type of truths. What is the rejections that you meet, or what is the patterns that you see that people can't get over to get to that state?
There's so many. Family is a big one. Parents, the way I grew up, society is huge. The community, the acceptance of people, and thinking I am not enough or lacking confidence in myself or having limiting beliefs. And one of the biggest problems I see is that we believe so much the stories in our head that we actually become trapped by them. But they are not real.
They're not real.
They're just stories we tell ourselves. And I understand that getting beyond that point requires a lot of energy, a lot of courage, a lot of strength, but you have one life.
Right.
You can really choose to make it your best life. Deep inside, we all know. We all know what we have to change. We all know the little things that
but like, I do it tomorrow. I do it tomorrow.
Anyway, and I knew I shouldn't have said yes. And I knew I should have stood up for myself and said something, but I didn't. And then we feed that. And I tell my students, like when we feed a belief system, it is like a cookie monster. We call him the cookie monster. And we call him this, like, it's, the little, what is it? It's, I forget the name. Sesame Street or something. He's called the Cookie Monster, and he's color blue, and he just eats cookies all day.
Right. Okay.
And so we visualize that that little Cookie Monster is sitting in our brain, just like eating every bad thought, and you're feeding it, and you feed it, but know that you're feeding it. And so the work is to bring awareness and to say, I just fed that monster.
That's what they say, like the awareness itself is already 80% solving the fact, right?
Yeah, because you're telling yourself, I fed that monster. I'm giving it ammunition. And the other thing I tell my students, and I can be a bit tough love, that's one thing about me, is if you're going to bed with fears, like with your internal narrative that you know is not correct and you know it's not your truth, but you're still feeding it and you're going to bed with it and you're kind of enjoying it because it's leaving you not changing too much, well, then admit it and enjoy it and tell yourself, I live with these fears and I love these fears and I love them and they're my friend and I can't wait to feed them. And I love telling myself I'm not enough. And I love telling myself that I am full of fears.
You don't have to admit your internal sadistic cookie monster.
Exactly. Admit it and enjoy it.
Right.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy it. And that's what people don't do. So they keep blaming themselves all the time because they know they're doing the wrong thing. Yeah. So we can't have the power to step into it, but we also have the power to actually admit exactly what we are.
If you're going to live with it, don't resist it.
Wow.
If you're going to live with it, love it. And that changes because then you're like, okay, well, I don't want to love that anymore. Like I kind of want to love some other belief systems about me.
Isn't it like, because it's a little bit forbidden from some certain point, isn't it what makes it more exciting?
Exactly.
Got my point? Like when sometimes you eat like bad food, you know it's bad, but like you know that it's also because it's bad, you kind of want it.
Yeah.
I think it's something to do with human nature that we have to fix.
Exactly.
From the beginning, right? That's
but then don't be like two-faced. Like don't tell yourself one story when you're really not believing that one story. Like at least be honest about the story you're telling yourself. The universe listens to everything. We cannot lie to the universe. So do you understand like the mix that's going on here?
Yeah.
And then we wonder, how did I end up in this place? The basis of like integrity and living a life of authenticity is saying to yourself, Xenia, today I'm struggling. Today I woke up and I had these beliefs about my body and I had these beliefs about this, but hey, I'm trying my best to change them. But stop hiding and resisting and creating this mashup of a dream, because
like a self-denial kind of state.
Yeah, because then that creates just, it creates a loop of unlove and not enough confidence in ourselves that is hurting us.
Wow, that's really deep. That's really deep. When you dig into that, you understand how many layers are there.
Yeah.
And then I feel like out of my kind of life experience, I see sometimes people have like a hidden benefit sometimes out of what, because sometimes it's really cool to be a victim. You got people coming, giving you attention, and it's nice to say, oh my God, didn't happen, and I'm so bad, and I'm, like, it's just life is so bad in general. But then when you look at that, like you can choose the thoughts, right? And then also I can tell you my experience that once I realized like I can throw away the negative thoughts out of my head, I felt so powerful. I was like, oh my God, like, because already it's proven that thoughts are not ours. We don't even know who puts those thoughts. Either it's like some scriptures from the past, either it's a family concept, either it's like a society thing. But you still, when you have the flow of that, if you kind of filter them like here and there, oh, this is a good one. Let me have it. I felt really powerful. And I feel like when I say it to some people, they feel it's like they're going to lose their kind of a victim state of having those hidden benefits. They are hidden because, of course, it's not nice to have a bad life, right? Or it's not nice to be on a job that you don't like. But the fact that I think we can realize that we can choose those things and we can really, transform ourselves in that sense. That's what is, maybe I feel like it's an experience, or either it's like, as you said, as a choice, because at some point you just don't want to face any more those things.
Exactly.
Once you realize the power of the thought, you don't want to get that effect anymore. Another thing, speaking of self-care and traveling, I feel like a lot of people see it as a luxury. And is it really a luxury or is it a priority?
This is an interesting, I read this question before you sent it to me, and I thought this is very interesting depending on how we define luxury. Like, I remember the day I met you, I was wearing my Hawaiianas and my flip-flops, and I felt so uncomfortable in Dubai with flip-flops.
And developer office and all the women
I
are
know,
like,
and I'm there like wearing my flip-flops.
Sure.
And I was like, next time, note to self, like wear like proper shoes in Dubai. I was coming in from Thailand and I'm just used to always wearing my flip-flops.
But Maria, we have an internal saying that people who dress like that, it's the really rich people. They don't have to bother about the office codes or any formalities, brands, because actually the really, really wealthy people never wear brands and they never look office-like suit. This is so
exactly.
For me, you were the perfect investor.
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about luxury. That's exactly what I was thinking. So for me, luxury is not about those things.
Right.
It really boils down to, like you said, my priority of putting my health first. So it is important for me to be in places where I am inspired, where there's beauty, where I feel comfortable, and where I have all my needs properly met. Because one, I travel a little too much, like a lot. Two, I'm already 43. Like, I really need to take care of my health properly before, because it's been too many years also of traveling. So for me, it is super important to have discipline and to really make sure I have the best conditions, because I also hold a huge platform. I have a business, I have investments, I have so many things going on, and so many people reaching out to me during the day. And with travel, that even reduces even more my available time. So for me, it's become a matter of how can I simplify my life? How can I make sure I have proper food, I sleep 8 hours a night, and I'm comfortable. So for example, airports is something that drains me a lot.
Of course.
So the more I can simplify, I love Emirates. That's why I love Dubai.
This year, they're the best airlines, by the way.
I mean,
yeah, they got that award.
If Emirates can pick me up and drop me off in exactly in the business or in the first class terminal, and I can go straight through immigration into the lounge, into the boarding gate, and less people and less my nervous system gets very activated, especially because I spend a lot of time on myself and I cultivate a lot my energetic field and really take care of it. So it gets very much depleted in big crowds, especially airports. So if I have to pay more, but that actually means that I feel calm and I'm talking to my team and I'm talking to you and I'm like doing stuff, then I feel like I'm still in my bubble and I feel that it really doesn't matter. Money is here to, when I put wellness first, everything else align. And money is here to really support me in my purpose and my mission, if that makes sense. And we can talk about that later.
Yes. And money is like, it's one of your books. Unfortunately, we don't have it in English yet, but guys, you just have to wait. Maria is planning to put it in English. The book name is I Love Money.
And money
A
loves
little
me,
bit
yeah.
elaborate on that. We again, society concept, money is this and money is that. But what is the money indeed? What does the money do?
So money is a transactional energy and money amplifies. And so money is here to help us bring tangible things like buy a desk, buy a podcast set, for us to fulfill our purpose. I truly, truly believe, and this is my belief, and this doesn't necessarily have to be everybody else's, but I believe that we came here for a purpose and we came here to share our gifts to the world.
Yeah.
And when we're doing this without, again, that guilt or that sense of I should be doing something else, or if only my gift were different, or if only this or that, money is like, hey, we're going on an adventure together. Like money follows me in my adventures around the world. And that really is my belief. And it's very interesting because reality is shaped by our belief systems, but we really, truly have to believe it, like deep inside in our core.
And that's, I think, the most challenging, because as many times you're trying to convince yourself in certain things, it just pushed out by something else. Yeah. And then you try to put it back again and then again, but enters like maybe 20%, 30%. And that's what I think the challenge is, because it's what I've known from psychology is that from the age from 1 to 7, we as kids, that's it. That's where the programming is finished. Yeah. And those programs are the deepest, the most solid, and it's extremely difficult to change. Now, there are different, what I know, psychological directions. Sometimes people, when they work with some psychological traumas or childhood traumas, they go to the past and they try to kind of, like maybe open up something, to work on something. And there is a new wave of directions that you just focus on your present, you focus on your future, you find the life that you desire, and then you just try to live it with, basically maybe discipline, schedule, things. So you don't really go back to the past. What is your stand on that?
Well, first of all, I'm not a therapist, so this is just kind of my opinion. Yeah. But I believe it's a little bit of a mix in between. I believe it is important to move beyond that. And I am very grateful because actually the therapist that God sent me to, that I landed on during what I told you at the beginning of the episode, they actually were from the line of the present moment rather than dwelling too much in the past. Like, how do we move forward from here? And that is maybe also why I believe a lot in this. However, there is one thing that needs to be addressed, which is any emotions or anything we're holding on to has to be worked on parallel to this envisioning of the life that I desire and moving forward. Because otherwise, again, you can't lie to the universe. So if inside our bodies we have stored trauma or fears, and we can tell ourselves all day long affirmations, but if we don't really clean this up, then there's going to be I call it a distortion. There's going to be something that doesn't align. And then we're in reality and we have drama around money, all the time drama around money. Yeah. And we're wondering, but I'm saying affirmations all day and I think positive and I'm disciplined. Why is there so much drama? And there might be certain trapped emotions or beliefs or hidden things that I still haven't properly addressed. And that is each person's journey to look at. And it can be as simple as one radical shift, or it can take a little bit longer. It really depends on each person's path.
I've heard one exercise that what people sometimes do to kind of push the boundaries on financial abundance is that they write daily, let's say $10,000 as if it comes to their account, and how would they spend it. Yeah. I tried, to be honest, after 3-4 days, I got exhausted. I didn't know where to spend. I was like, oh my God, I don't need this money anymore. It's too much mentally, And then I realized this, I have barriers. I have something where somewhere in my subconscious, there is a stopping, and I started to push through that. Like, why are you scared of that amount? Why you don't want to where you don't know where to spend your money? Are you even a woman? Not knowing where to spend? How's that possible? Because, the task was when you write the amount, you actually have to write what you're spending it, meaning the brand. Like if you want to buy TV, which brand, what size, things like that. If you want to buy the bag, And when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is really a strong mental exercise, which you wouldn't even know how much it will affect. And it helped me a lot to understand my personality, my beliefs in the sense.
Well, I know what I would do.
Right.
I would buy properties with you, and I would put the 10,000 every day in the properties.
That's even those money is actually nothing comparing for what Dubai has to offer right now. Yeah, but that's what is the thing, like, you know, because world is so abundant and there are so many things to spend money on, and it's not about spending money. It's about are you like starving for some excitement? Are you looking to explore the world like you do? Are you looking to have a treatment in the finest spa, which, you know, the world has all of that things, but there are a lot of people sitting back and saying, no, it's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. So the question is, maybe they don't really want it. Also, as you said, like people have to really align with that feeling, right? Yeah. They really want to like genuinely understand why they want to go to that spa. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit challenging, I think, mentally for a lot of people to understand what they really want.
Well, there's a few things here that came to mind while you were talking. Like the first thing is not everybody is designed to spend all that money.
Right.
Many people are happy living very simple, little cottage in the nature and having a very simple life.
Yeah.
And that's also like allowed. Everything is allowed in this universe, right? What I do tell my students, especially when they tell me, for example, I actually don't need anything, is the following. I understand. If those 10,000, for example, that you said a day come into your bank account, you can give it away. Give it to all the charities you can think of. Give it to anybody that you feel needs it. But still do the work. Mm-hmm. Because when we do the work, we find where the blocks really are. And then we can decide, once we do the work and we're free, then we can decide, oh yeah, I do want to donate all my money. I actually don't need anything but my little four walls and my dog.
And there are a lot of places where people really need to fix minimum things with those money.
Exactly. And maybe that is a path I want to take, but I did the work. I discovered what was inside of me. And that's really what I care about. And that's really what my job is and my work and what I'm so passionate about. My passion is to help people see their belief systems. And I always say, like, I'm really an artist. I'm an artist of words.
I love that.
And because I don't like those tags of like coach or, it's so limiting for me. I'm an artist of words. And I help people through my words dissolve belief systems that separate them from their heart, from the truth, from God, however you want to call it. So those belief systems that limit us, that make us forget who we are. So if in the process of doing the work around the money, you discover like, hey, I had issues with my uncle or my father or this, and you cleared it, that helped you come closer to your heart. Right. And if that brought you extra money, give it away if you don't want it. It doesn't really matter. But something important here that I write about it at the beginning of my book on money is that we do have a moral obligation with the past generations, the future generations, ourselves and Mother Earth to do this work. Because the planet and the injustice and the things that shouldn't be happening on this planet are happening because we have all of these belief systems around money and ourselves, because we've forgotten who we are. And if money is a pathway, because people love money, like I wouldn't be talking about money if it weren't because it is one of the biggest blocks that we have to coming back to ourselves.
Exactly.
Like, my God, can we get over this? And I am so like passionate about this to try and move people because there is a hierarchy of needs and we have our basic needs and then things like food and shelter. And then until we go up, we can actually hit the spiritual. And money, unfortunately, makes us stuck in the first stairs, right? In the first parts of the hierarchy of needs, because we want things to be met and we get anxious and we get fearful. So until we do the work with money and liberate ourselves from those emotions, we really, honestly, truly, and I know this goes against many, many spiritual beliefs and you're allowed to have any that you want, but we won't reach full realization if we continue thinking that money isn't spiritual and everything else is. Because everything is God. Everything is creation.
Is creation.
Including a transactional energy that we call money and numbers in a computer. That's still part of creation. So until we get past those fears, we will not find we will not be able to create societies that are aligned with Mother Nature and with each other. And love and compassion.
And you know what's important? You said that I feel like if everyone would be tapping into that and they would realize it's up to them. It's not that the government's problem or anybody else's problem. Is actually you maneuvering around and releasing those blocks, I think the greed of the world would also minimize when we realize that we can actually have that whole financial abundance which we want. Then you wouldn't be like, let's say, maybe the crimes will go totally to zero because people wouldn't steal money, people wouldn't steal stuff which, like they think they just should take from someone else, something that it's not theirs.
And money activates this deep fear in people, I've noticed. Like it activates one of our primal survival instincts. And it goes back to that.
What I've tracked as well is that any movement that is happening, any realization that is happening in the head, it gives direct reaction and the wave of chain reactions all over, starting from you, then it goes further. There is multiple layers, and we shouldn't think ourselves as we're small. That's what I want to add to your, like the fact of the abundance and how much one single person can affect the whole world.
Yeah.
And when people really realize that, that's where the platforms are growing, because people relate to that. People know that, oh my God, I can learn from that person. Oh my God, where is this wisdom is coming from? I want to have part of that because this is what people haven't heard. Because sometimes when I see things, I feel like everybody knows it. For me, it's like so obvious. But sometimes like you realize that people didn't really even heard of that. And that's what actually inspired me also to create the podcast, where I can have people like you who can share things that maybe a lot of just half of the world haven't heard about. And they're living on the day-to-day basis without realizing how much potential they do have inside, and they just blocked it. They don't have it. It doesn't go out, let's say.
And that goes back to like also what you said, like jealousy or envy, or like I don't want, like I don't like her. I don't know. If we actually open ourselves up to maybe there's something, maybe those triggers, maybe that I don't like this feeling about this person. Right. If we actually open up to that, we can discover my growth. We can discover that next level that we had within us. So it's always good to push those little triggers and see like what really is going on there.
Do you think it's always has to be someone who's helping, like a master or like a coach, or any human can actually sit with themselves and like, I don't know, just today I'm deciding I want to dig inside of myself and, just see what's there. Possible.
I truly believe that we do have the capacity to do that, but we've been taught that we don't. Just like with health, we've been taught to put it in other people's hands, and we don't trust ourselves even with our own health. We don't trust ourselves even with our own beliefs.
This is a scary part. When something happens, people run to the hospital without even realizing that maybe you just have to give your body time to recover sometimes, I like that example when they say, if you had broken your hand, you are giving it time for the bone to grow, to heal and everything. But when you got your heart broken in the sense of emotions, you just put it down and you just don't let time to do similar healing, because emotions are still emotions, feelings are still feelings. And I think they're even bigger and stronger and way more powerful than the physical reality, right?
I believe they are. And I believe our belief systems, and I know this because I work really hard on my energetic system, my belief systems, and really trying to keep my mind as clear as possible from collective beliefs and things entering my field and questioning everything that enters. And so I have noticed that the minute I have a thought that isn't positive about myself, boom, like I will trip. Or it happened the other day. I was in the gym and I never have limiting beliefs about my body. It's just not one of those things I've had in general in my life. Many others maybe, but not about my body. And I had a thought that said something like, oh, you're so ugly. I think I must have like picked it up from somewhere. Like it was probably in the air. Who knows what? I have no idea.
It wasn't even yours. It just flew by.
It came in and I looked at it and I thought, what's this thought? And I stretched to the left and I pulled a muscle. Like it just happens immediately. And I was like, God damn it. Like I allowed that belief system in me and immediately it gets reflected. And it happens all the time, Xenia. I look at, when it really happens a lot with clothes in my luggage. And so because I travel so much, I have to have limited amount of things.
Yeah, the basics.
And things that I really like. Because, what's the point of carrying around the world things I don't like, right? And so sometimes I look at certain clothes and I'm like, I'm not sure if this shirt, I really like it. you will not believe this, but the next day I will either rip it or it'll shrink in the dryer or it will get lost. I'm like, I need to stop saying that, because the minute I say that, immediately it gets manifested. So this goes back to something you were saying, and I lost the train of thought, but it was the beliefs. Yeah, the beliefs really do manifest. And sometimes it takes a long time, and sometimes it can be instant.
Right.
But you will see it reflected, because this is like a projected screen. And so you project this, and it might take a while to adjust, but it will always show you what you projected.
Wow. Yeah, to me, it feels like we have a remote control. I always like to say it, a remote control inside. That is actually, this is the TV, and this is, you press on the program, and then the program is showing, but you have to choose that program, the good program, the one that really, displays for you that reality that you want to have in your life. Speaking of energies, I think it's not easy to keep the energy like flowing with abundance, with, hard to explain, but to me, everything is energy, basically, right? Yeah. And then our mission is maybe to, first of all, recognize that we are all having those powers and everything. And then like aligning me, because there is not only our energy, there is a universal energy, there is negative entities energy as well. And now the struggle sometimes comes where, how, like, let's say, would you name 3-4 things that you think are important to keep yourself energetically abundant and being positive, staying in that state of mind? Because I think it's hard.
I had this question, and I recorded a podcast on it for my students. So a lot of people ask me, how do I stay in this positive state, abundant state, when there's so many... I read on the newspaper that the economy is difficult, or people are telling me I live in La La Land, or people are complaining about money and in general, or I see poverty around me, or I see difficult situations around me. Like, how do I stay firm in what I know? And this is like when you build a house, you really have to build that house on really strong foundations. And the affirmations that we were talking about earlier, or the discipline, or the things that we do every day, like, like the little, I don't know, on my phone, I have a little background that says I am abundant. That's kind of like the decorations in the house.
Right.
It's the things we put around us, but the foundation needs to be strong. So the first thing, and I say the foundations, or my belief is the foundations, are our value system. So when we know our value system, then we know what is important for us. If truth is important for me, if authenticity or beauty or compassion or love or joy are important for me, then that is the beginning. So our value system helps us filter. So when a person comes in with very negative energy, and one of my beliefs is like, I believe that we are here to live in joy, and I believe also in sharing love and compassion, then it doesn't really match. And that's where we have to really say, okay, like, this is, I'm sorry, but
without judgment, like,
no judgment, but
next,
all good. I wish you the best. But this doesn't really, just the way we look at somebody stealing,
right?
And we're like, no judgment, and I might call the police or not. It depends on how bad you're doing.
Do you feel sometimes a kind of vampiring energy from people? Do you have that sensitivity? Like, because sometimes they say there's people who are vampires, they're actually living on kind of making other people angry or miserable, and then they love that energy.
I mean, I think it has to be really, somebody really strong to trigger that in me. Yes, sometimes it can happen. But immediately I'm like, this doesn't make me feel good. Like, so recently, there was a person that was working somewhere that I had to be in touch with a lot, and I could feel his pain was so deep from the stories he had lived through. But when the pain is so deep that it affects the people around, and it was kind of a rejection. Like, I really tried to go as little time as possible near this person, try not to engage. That's another thing too. Yeah, one of the keys is when we engage. Again, you can think of a transaction. When we engage, then we start pushing and pulling. So sometimes our ego wants to engage because we want to prove that we're right on something. And that's where we really have to swallow it.
That's my struggle, by the way.
Yeah, we really have to swallow it and turn around and then I yell or I go and I don't know, I do something and I get it out. But the moment we engage, we're feeding that monster and our energy is leaving there.
It's like something that I read yesterday about saving the world, because I think this argumental thing, which I mentioned as one of my triggers, if somebody says something and I believe in a different things, I would love to get into that and just turn it around and try to kind of prove that my way is. Now I'm realizing this is something that is, especially when you read a lot of things about that actually we don't have to like argue really, because it's not even about the opinion of the other person. It's about, you don't have to save the world.
Yeah.
Because, when people want to save the world, that's what it was written, that we do not accept the perfection of the world.
Exactly.
So we have to accept everything, even this. The question, do you get involved or you don't get involved?
Yeah.
And we can't change the whole thing, because maybe, as I said, the path to God is each one has their own.
Yeah.
And we can't really interfere and we can't really, adjust. Maybe if person asks and come themselves, like your students, maybe they're coming to you. So they want to have that guidance and they want to have the wisdom. So that's where, the work starts.
And that's the hard thing too, because I do find myself sometimes like giving opinions that really are not asked for. I actually sent an audio to a friend this morning and she was sharing something personal and I just gave my opinion. And I told myself out loud while I was recording, I was like, and this was not the space for you to share your opinions. And then I deleted it. And then I have to like really come back to myself to redo that audio from a space of, I don't need to care for, she doesn't care about my opinion. Like this is not about me trying to tell her, fix everybody.
Right. It's more about people just letting their story out.
Exactly.
Just have to sit and listen to say, yes, it happens. Life is like that sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Just let's leave it and things like that.
Yeah, but when we're strong and we're opinionated, we have to restrain ourselves.
I think it comes from the experiences also when you feel like somebody didn't see the story from the other angle. And that's where sometimes it becomes tough for other people to deal. Like with me, sometimes people say you are so like, you just need to put your opinion into that. But this is so obvious.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a work. It's a work, and the ability to let other people live the life that they want to live and to accept them the way they are. And, now I started to make an exercise like, now, what do I have to do actually? Like, instead of thinking of someone else's, like how many times did I go to the gym I tried to shift the attention to the actions that I do myself, or I didn't do most probably, before actually getting involved in someone else's story to try to help them out in certain things.
And also something I share in my 4th book, it's a lot of books, I have a lot to say. It's called I Am Mother Nature. And it's 40 days to connect to the infinite abundance on Mother Earth. And one of the principles is that Mother Nature in itself allows more than 8 billion realities to coexist, one for each human, right?
Right.
And she doesn't say, you don't get air because you didn't behave. You don't get sunshine because I don't think what you did was right. She doesn't judge. Like everybody gets air, everybody gets nutrients, everybody gets water, everybody gets the privilege to be able to lead the life they want to lead without judgment. You want to be a thief? Go be a thief. You can be a thief. Like you are held with so much unconditional love by creation that it's even allowing you to go be a thief or a liar or whatever you want to say and go be a good person. Like she loves you so much. She's allowing you to go do that too. Everybody is free. And as you can see, people are doing crazy things in this planet. And she doesn't say you don't get air.
She doesn't punish.
Or nutrients. She doesn't punish. Exactly. And so I know this is difficult for us humans because we have our mind and we have duality and we have all these crazy things and stories and memories. But to go back to that principle and to understand that, like you said, there are universal laws. And I believe karma is a science. Like I believe there is no way around it. And I always say this on my Instagram. We think we're the exception to universal laws. Like we think the law of attraction works for everybody else, but not for me. And we think that being positive and money. We think that money and abundance is for everybody else, but not for me. And we always think we're the exception, whether it be positive or negative. We always think we're the exception to the universal laws. If we stick to them, we realize that creating reality is not difficult. We make it difficult. And the universe has no opinion about what we're doing.
Never thought of that this way. Yeah.
It's just there.
It's just there.
Just like with money, Xenia, the credit card machine that you swipe the credit card through, it has no opinion as to what you're buying. It doesn't say, Xenia, that's too expensive.
Too much today, unless it's a bank amount. Unless it's a bank says it's too much today, my friend.
But it has no opinion if you want to go buy it in candy or in books or in a dinner. Right? It has no opinion. No. It's us, the ones who are sitting there thinking, I shouldn't have spent that money there. I should have. So the universe works a little bit like that. Yeah. The universe has no opinions if you want to go run naked through the oceans or whatever. Like the universe doesn't care. Mm-hmm. It's us, the ones who care. And that's where we go back to taking responsibility for our belief systems and what we say, what we do, and how in alignment we are.
Amazing. This is very, very interesting point about how accepting the mother nature is to us and how, but it doesn't do, but it does support. Every time you call for it, it gives you the answer. Yeah. Either negative, either positive. You want this, my friend? Here you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of women empowerment and women success, a lot of women, when they have a very strong way of pushing things and looking for money and create, because, again, here comes the men and women way of success in a sense. Do you think women can actually earn money and stay in their feminine without getting into this masculine goals, facts, strong opinion, things like that?
Oh, I don't believe that we can not only do that. I believe it's inevitable. I believe it's already here. Right. I believe it's a bridge that we are crossing at this very instant in time, and there is no turning back. Mm-hmm. The way of the feminine woman coming back to herself as a reflection of what we were talking about, of this compassion, of this love, this generosity, is inevitable. So many women are waking up and so many women are realizing that the other path is not the path. And I think 2020 helped a lot with that as well. And coming back to our physical bodies and the access that the internet is one of the most wonderful things that has happened to us because it's given us access to tools we didn't have. Our parents did not have the tools we have today. Like, bless them. Like, I think about that every day. I'm like, bless my parents who had me when they were so young. It makes me want to cry. When they were so young and they knew
nothing.
1/10 maybe, and that's a lot of what we know today about personal development and the mind and ways to relate and talk and speak and needs, emotional needs. We didn't have access to this information before, but we have access now. Right. And it is, again, a privilege and a responsibility to do it. So it's not a matter of will we be able to make it? It's a matter of it's happening. The question is, are you jumping on this train or are you going to stay in the old one? Because I always tell my students there's two worlds. There's the world of scarcity, the world of fear, the world of resisting, the world of difficulty, the world of complaining, the world of this is not for me and the limiting beliefs. And then there is the world that we're on. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're definitely on it, where we're actually taking our reality into our hands and choosing actively what we want to live and experience. And yes, there'll be difficulties. And yes, we will cry. And yes, it will be difficult sometimes. Yes. But we're actively choosing and aligning to something bigger, our values and what we desire to live and positivity, etc. And the problem now, and this is super important, the problem now is that because time has accelerated so much and consciousness has changed so much, there is no more wishy-washy. Before, we could go to a dinner table where everybody was complaining, everybody was talking about what the material things and, maybe
basically
wasting time. And we could still engage with that. We could still talk and be like, okay, it was fine. Like, it wasn't my best cup of tea, but it was fine. And then leave and then go back to our regular life. And before we could entertain a little that world, Now it is so different and it makes us feel so bad and we reject it, or like it's just not, like I spoke earlier about this person being in pain. Like it's just so unaligned with us now that there is no more space for this. I'll dip it in here and come back. That boat sailed a long time ago. And so it's not possible. And if we're in between those states, we can visualize that one is the land, one is the boat that sailed. We're swimming confused. We're like, where am I going? Am I going back to the land? Or am I going to the boat that sailed? But somebody help me. And that's where anxiety comes in. And that's where confusion comes in and lack of clarity. And that's where, again, you have to decide. And it comes back to what we spoke to earlier. You go back to the land, but you admit you're on the land and you live from the land and you make the best of the land. And if you're on the boat, then you know you're on that boat. But this like not really sure what I'm doing with my life confusion because I can't decide if I want to put boundaries or not is causing anxiety and a draining of our energy. And so no more wishy-washy. Like we really have to create these boundaries and bring in courage and like really come back to ourselves and say, how do I want to live? What do I want to live? What do I want to experience? What am I available for? What am I not available for?
And that comes to also choosing the circle of people that are around you, the friends, the people that you associate with. And I think what you said before, because obviously if you're creating a new you, the circle also get really a little bit, it becomes less, And I think it's what you want to keep is a quality in the sense that somebody, because what I feel is it's the best thing because when those downs are happening, because they will happen anyways, who is going to pull you out? I guess the people who is looking at the same direction with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's the same, which, because obviously there's development levels, right? Speaking of your friend circle, how do you energetically choose people? Do you choose people on the, like hobby level, or I don't know, how is it happening for you?
Well, actually friendships and family has been one of the biggest lessons and growing pains in the past couple of years. One of the things that I realized, which I spoke about at the beginning, is how I was relating to the people around me from my trauma, from my people pleasing specifically, how I wanted to please my friends. And there was a lot where I wasn't speaking my truth, or maybe not being taken advantage of, but maybe some boundaries were being slightly crossed. And the moment when I set those boundaries, then there was unfortunately hatred or anger towards me. And this is very common as well when we establish boundaries. So friendships has been difficult for me because it's really made me face and sit with the fact that some people won't like me and the fact that I will maybe hurt people as well. And maybe they will hurt me as well. And it will get uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. And unfortunately, a lot of drama too sometimes. It depends on the people, but there can be a lot of drama and a lot of confusion and just things that are hurtful in general. And it's been really difficult to navigate that. But the guiding principle that helps me is, okay, this person is good in its essence. It is the way we were relating. It's like the contract that we wrote where maybe it wasn't equal. Like I was giving more in the friendship than the other person, for example. That contract, and I visualize that we're breaking the contract in the universe. And sometimes the friendship gets repaired and sometimes it doesn't.
True.
But at least I understand that person really didn't intend harm. It was the contract that we had agreed upon.
So kind of settings from the beginning, which allowed that person but to change the settings, they don't want to accept it because their condition of friendship was on that contract.
Exactly. That was exactly what happened with a lot of my previous friends that I had. And I understand why they felt that way too. I understand I signed the contract where I was people pleasing and they were happy with it too. Like we both agreed to it, right? And I understand that my breaking the contract hurts feelings and sometimes can be a little bit harsh because I tend to sometimes break the contract very harshly. And I understand that it does create this sense of where did that come from, or pain. However, one thing we need to understand is two things. Number one, we're not responsible for other people's emotions.
True.
And at the same time, we have to protect ourselves. And when we notice something, unfortunately, sometimes we do have to cut it off. And there will be a lot of pain involved. But we have to truly trust our heart that if this is the best for me, and I forgive myself if I didn't do it properly, or if maybe I made mistakes, I forgive myself. But I truly believe this is the best for me, then it is my truth.
Do you think the certain way of communication can improve things when something got broken, or it is what it is?
It depends on the person.
Depends on the person.
It really depends on the person. Because I've had friends where we have grown and evolved together and we talk about things. And I have a really close friend that I love dearly. And many things happened with her work and work related that really had nothing to do with our friendship. And there was a point when I was feeling a bit anger. And she said, I'm feeling that you're taking a step back from me. Like, is everything okay? And I said, no, to be honest, every time I see you or I think about this, it triggers the pain from this happening and I feel anger. So I really need a little bit of time to process this anger, but you have to understand it has nothing to do with you, but you remind me of the situation that happened. And we've grown and evolved together. And I do believe that some people can understand. But again, that goes back to who we signed the contracts with, because we were perfectly aware. And yes, let me tell you this. We knew who we were signing contracts when we did it. We knew like, this person, I'm going to be friends with her. But honestly, like, I'm not so sure. I feel like she's a loyal friend. We always know, Xenia. We always know who we sign contracts with, just like partnerships.
It's really interesting thing because, surrounding yourself, it's also like who you surround yourself. I strongly believe this is really it's not like you become what the other people are, but it does a strong effect. So to me, like, I try to be, for me, the main thing is the people who is creating drama, because drama is triggering in me. I hate fights. I hate conflicts. Maybe I have to, and actually I tend to meet people who like that. And it's a very interesting thing, because is it the opposite attract thing? Is it something that maybe I can ask myself, maybe I have to work through this and accept the fact of conflicts. But again, how deep does it affect you, right? When you're talking about the pain and you're talking about the things that you're going to feel when you break certain relationship, it's not easy, because it's something that you get attached to over a period of time. Any relationship and friendship in general is something that could be years, right? And then pulling something out of yourself and putting yourself first, it's going to create a little wound over there, which needs to grow, which needs to like kind of, I don't know what happens with wounds in emotional, way, but it takes time to.
And if you're in the personal development world or you're a coach like me, that will be amplified a lot, because people create expectations about us. And so anybody creates expectations, ideas about another person.
Right.
And so when people create expectations around how they think we need to react, whether you're in coaching or not, but when people create expectations, like, I want this person to be this way, then unfortunately we will never meet those expectations. And then again, they will be triggered, or we will be hated, or there will be conflict.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because again, when we're talking about all of those fields, there are so many triggers and so many different directions where people, because I think every person has weaknesses in one specific field. For somebody, for example, work goes perfect, but then family and relationship circle. For somebody, other way around, families are perfect, but they're always struggling with money or something like that. So it's an interesting thing, like how multiple all those dimensions when it comes to people experiencing their life.
Exactly.
Let me check if we still have, actually it's 4. So Maria, will ask you to maybe say a few words to my, audience, to your audience. What is your, a wish for 2025 to all those people who are listening to us right now, how to become maybe more happy, more successful, more abundant, and in line with the energy that, or maybe with who they are themselves?
Time flew, by the way.
I swear.
Okay, so if there were one thing, God, I have many that I would wish, like, courage and boundaries and discovering their power. But if there were just one thing, I think it would be to realize that this life, like, is a gift and tomorrow is not guaranteed. It really is not.
It's not.
So just live each day, one day at a time, and infuse as much as you can your values and what you believe is true, and just take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Come back to yourself like over and over again.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
was
Xenia.
Absolutely awesome to have you on the podcast. So many truths, so much wisdom, as
you.
usual.